Welcome to our webinar hosted by Integrated Access Solutions. And today's speaker is David Lync, co-founder and principal with IAS. David has over 20 years experience working with thousands of businesses from SME to Fortune 500. David's experience includes working with solutions provided by partners such as Microsoft, Interactive Intelligence, Polycom, Avaya, Intellipeer, and more. I'll go ahead and let David take the stage.
Today's presentation, we're going to cover a few different topics. The first, we're going to start off with a definition of what unified communications is to help some of you out there who are maybe new to the Microsoft Lync portfolio. A real short single slide presentation. And then we're going to get right into a live demonstration of Microsoft Lync 2013. Now, a good portion of the demonstration, this is actually off of our production system. So a good portion of the demonstration will really show you what Microsoft Lync is, the power of unified communications, but I'll also focus on some of the key differentiators and the enhancements coming from Microsoft Lync 2010 up to 2013. And then after the demonstration is complete, a case study of a client who has gone from the traditional voice over IP communication platform into Lync, and we'll discuss their strategy and the roadmap and the phased approach that we took. And it's a pretty compelling story that I think applies to a lot of our clients out in the marketplace today. So we're going to start off, and actually, if you guys don't mind, real quickly, I'm going to pause for a sec here and reach out to Mike Nelson. He's one of the principals as well. And I sent him out to get us some lunch because I'm a bit hungry, and we have a long demonstration here. So let's see the power of Lync in action, see if this can actually help me out today. What's happening? Where are you at today? I can hear you fine. You got a lot of people on the webinar. So where are we at today? Where are you going to pick up lunch for me? Oh, yummy. Actually, what I would like is get me the chicken, a little bit of cheese, lettuce, tomato, salsa.
Got it.
Okay. And actually pinto beans and white rice and lots of salsa. Yes, right there. Are we good?
It's a bit loud here. I'll put that order for you.
Okay, thanks, man. I'll see you in about 20 minutes. All right, so back to our presentation, right? One of the powers of Microsoft Lync 2013 is we now have video on the mobile client. We're going to come back to that a little bit later, but let's go ahead and kick off with what is really unified communications and how we like to define it. As Henry had mentioned, I've been in this business for really actually about 22, 23 years. And when I first started in the business, my job really to meet with clients and help identify needs for PBX, traditional telephony systems, and voicemail systems. And at that time, we really had these two modalities of communication available. It was voicemail and telephony. Then over the next 20 or so years, we started seeing these other modalities of communication make it into the enterprise. We started seeing instant message, video conferencing, web conferencing, email calendaring, and audio conferencing. But as they made it into mainstream businesses, what was interesting is they all did so independently. And when they did so independently, they created these communication silos. And basically, communication silos really mean that we have technologies that are developed by different manufacturers. And when technologies are developed by different manufacturers, we typically have solutions that are built on proprietary appliances. They have their own storage requirements, security requirements, support agreements. It's just kind of a hodgepodge of different technologies. If you have these solutions, it's great, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to have video conferencing in their environment, or who wouldn't want to have instant message? But the task that the IT staff has in supporting all these disparate solutions is pretty tough. It's also tough for the end user because even though you may be lucky enough to have some or all these technologies in your business, just think about how you have to access them on a day-to-day basis. Before Unified Communications by Microsoft, our office really had most of these technologies. But the fact is we didn't really start using very many of them at all because it was just complicated. You know, certainly we had our phone on our desk, and I'd make phone calls to clients, and I'd receive phone calls from clients. But I was usually in my desktop. I was at my Outlook, looking up email. But if I needed to make a phone call, I was in the contact section of Outlook, and then I'd manually dial on my phone. And that was kind of my existence. We often had video calls with our office up in NorCal. So we'd come into the video room, a couple times a week, and we'd launch a video session, and then we may bridge in another client for a project that we were working on. We had to pay for inbound Meet Me conferencing, right? So there's an added expense every month to bridge audio collaboration. And so we had the technology, but we just didn't use it a lot because, again, it was expensive, it was different. There's different logins and authentication for each one of these different silos of communication. So the question is there a better way of doing this? And what we discovered several years ago while at Microsoft in a briefing center is that, yeah, there was. They had a great solution called OCS. And then over the years, OCS matured to OCS R2, to Microsoft Lync 2010, and now to where we are at 2013. And what those powerful tools from Microsoft did is they brought all of those disparate silos of communication together into one nice, very elegant client where I can access all those modalities of communication that I need on a day-to-day basis. I access it based on intelligent presence. And via presence, I can decide how I wish to communicate with staff members or clients or friends. And then I can also choose how I wish to be communicated with based on my availability. I can choose to work anywhere today. Right now I'm in our company's conference room. With my laptop, I move over to my office. I often work from home. I'm on the road. If I'm early to a meeting, I'll sit in their lobby and I can launch my communications. So it's really everywhere access, and it's with any device access. So if I don't have the luxury of having my laptop available, I have my mobile device, and with my mobile device I have the same look and feel of my Microsoft Lync client that I have on my laptop as I actually do on my mobile device. And that's for iPhone, Windows 8, Android endpoints. And we're going to touch mobility a little bit later. So this is really how we like to define unified communications. I think it paints a really nice picture. And from here, we're going to go really right into a live demonstration. And I'm going to start with my client. Now, when I do this demonstration, this is our production system. This is what we have at IAS. So interesting things may occur, maybe some embarrassing things. It's okay during this demonstration, but this is just how we communicate. And so, as I'd mentioned, this is a demonstration for Microsoft Lync 2013. But at the same time, I'm going to point out some key differentiators between 2010 and 2013 for some of those clients out there that have 2010 and are trying to figure out, is it time to move? And my answer to some of our clients is it really just depends. We have still several clients in a telephony world on 2010. They're perfectly happy. They're perfectly fine. Everything's functional. But they're asking, like, why and when should we migrate to 2013? And I just let them know, these are the key differentiators from an application level and a feature level. And there are some architectural and design considerations that may have an impact on your decision. So we'll be here to go through that today. And then after the presentation, I will we'll open it up to an open forum and we can talk about any questions that you may have. So let's start off with a Lync client. I'm going to point out a couple of key things here. And starting off with this client. This is me, David Langlois. Right now, it is all automatically selected that I'm in a conference call. And the reason it shows that I'm in a conference call is because I'm in a conference call right now. Down here, I see all the people, the customized groups that I've created. And when we deploy this solution for our customers, one of the first things that we talk about in a training session is create a group that makes sense for you as an individual. Everybody in our company probably has their own group. I create a group based on people that I most commonly want to, I create a group based on how I want to communicate with individuals. So I broke my groups down in our Southern California office for sales as well as operational support. And then later I'll show you some of our clients and our partners that we federate with and some of the luxuries that we benefit with Lync through this federation process. So it's very simple to create groups. And once we do, it's very simple to add groups. So as an example, I can receive an email from a client that maybe that I created a group with of a system that we deployed a month ago. And I may receive an email from a new person that I haven't added to my Lync list. When I receive that email, just simply right-clicking on their name, add to group, I've added that person now as truly a Lync client under that subgroup. Just a very, very powerful solution, and we'll demonstrate some of that a little bit later as well. So going through the group that I have, some key things that are a bit new is I have my group section here. I have my status and relationships. So I can take a view based on what makes sense for me. Again, I always like to keep it in group, but if I wanted to go to status as an example, it'll actually group it based on availability and status of all the people that are in my client. That doesn't do a lot for me. Some people like it. So again, I usually focus just on groups. When I look at the group here, I can take a look at a few people here in our office. Number one, here's Don Vanderwall, one of the principals of the company. He's in an available state. I see that Gabe is in an available state. I see that John Price is in an available state. I know they're available based on what it says as well as their color, which is green. It also tells me that they have video enabled. So if I wish to communicate with that individual, I now know that I can actually launch a video call if I so choose. Mike Nelson, he's on this call right now. He was actually over at, I forgot where he was, but he was selecting a burrito for me. But it shows that he's in a conference call on his mobile device. And then here's Cinery, who kicked the meeting off. She's in a conference call. So why this presence is so important is because it gives me the intelligence to decide how do I want to communicate with that individual, right? So if Don Vanderwall is available, I can simply double-click on Don's name to launch a window, and I could say, hey, Don, do you have a sec to talk? Right? Or I can just click my call button and call him either via Lync or any telephone number I have listed, mobile device or maybe his home, or I can launch a video call. But typically, and everybody's a little bit different, I didn't have to launch an IM first. I could have gone right into hovering over Don's name with the new quick Lync menu, which is an enhancement of 2013. Just hovering over the name, I can select IM, or I can just click the call button here. And then I just launched a phone call to Don. Right? So when he's available, I can kind of pick and choose how I want to communicate with him. I could have also just as well selected video, right? Because, again, he's in an available state. I'll disconnect from here. But what we like to do, just kind of best practices, is I usually, even though he's available, I'll still launch an IM and say, do you have a sec? Because, you know what, even though he's available, maybe he's wrapping something up for a client. And I want to just give him a little respect and a respect for his time. So I'll just say, do you have a sec? And leave it at that. So again, why is presence so important? Well, take a look at a conference call. Cinery's in a conference call. If we didn't have this presence capability, in the past, I would have just launched a phone call to Cinery. And what happens? Well, I call Cinery. After about 20, 24 seconds, which is about 4 or 5 rings, it goes to her voicemail because she's in a conference call. During that time, while her phone was ringing, she's being interrupted. She's still on the conference call, but it's kind of stressing her out a little bit. I'm getting this call from Dave, and should I take it? Should I put my call on hold? It's just kind of a pain, right? But ultimately what happens is she's in a conference call, so it's going to go to her voicemail. And then when she's finished with her conference call, she's going to listen to her voicemail and then call me back. And because 80% of all phone calls go to voicemail, there's a good chance that we're going to be doing this all day long. So instead, if Cinery's in a conference call, I don't call her. Right? It just doesn't make sense. But I could still double-click on her name or, again, using the new quick Lync menu, hover over her name, select IM, and say, can you call me after your call? And leave it at that. Or I could have actually hovered over Cinery's name, gone to more options, and select at the bottom, tag for status change, so that when she changes status from in a conference call to available, then it'll alert me with a toaster pop-up, and then I can reach out and talk to her. So this is why presence is so important. I'll give you another example. In a conference call with mobile, well, I now, with 2013, we didn't have video capability on 2010 client, but now we do. But still, you might want to think twice about if you're on a video call, or if I'm trying to reach somebody who's on a mobile device, do I really want to launch a video? Well, we just saw before we kicked this meeting off that it's kind of handy, right? Mike can show me kind of what's on the menu, what the options are, and I can select it live. But in reality, he might be driving, and I don't want to distract him, though we've done that a few times for fun. I'll still probably, if he's mobile, I'll probably just select to launch a phone call. I could certainly launch IM. He has all those capabilities on his mobile device, but usually when you're on your phone, you might be driving. It's just easier to communicate via voice. So these are, this is presence, and again, I create customized groups. So I have my sales Southern California, the support group for SoCal, and you can see as I go down, we also, for most of the customers that we deploy solutions for, not all, but at least for my clients, we federate with them. It's a secure way where IT departments get together and decide that, okay, these two companies want to federate. And there's certainly roles and policies where you can limit what can be viewed. But what's pretty neat is that same type of visibility that I have within my employees with their statuses, I have that with companies that we federate with. Here's our Plantronics. This is one of our vendors. Here's some of our clients coming down here, right? I can reach out to one of my clients, and Howard's available, and simply launch a quick IM session, or a phone call, or a video call, or a collaboration session, and initiate conversation that way. So really power federation, and I have this little globe here telling me that this person's outside of my company network, but I still have all the abilities to communicate with this person without touching the PSTN network. It's all over the WAN or just basic internet access. So this is some general high-level views of presence and how we leverage presence and why presence is so important to really facilitate communicating properly in the way people want to be communicated with. Now, another neat thing that's with 2013 is next to my icon here, which is kind of my little home page here of my contacts, is this icon here, which stands for persistent chat. And persistent chat is a really powerful tool, and we really like it within the office. We're starting to use it more and more, but it's kind of like an open forum group. And there's a few different groups that I'm a member of. One of them I created. It certainly was an ego feed. I don't know who did this. I don't know if anybody in our office has too much of an ego, but if I look at IS or sales collaboration as an example, or sales strategy, there's two new entries here. So I can open up sales strategy, and this is just open dialogue between these three guys who are now currently online in the sales strategy collaboration session. And anybody can join and drop off at any time, but it keeps an ongoing record of any discussions that we've had since we launched this particular meeting for persistent chat. The operations team has their own, and they've found that is a pretty useful tool. Number one, during big cuts, they may keep a chat room open for continual dialogue, or just to pass ideas on hey, there's a emergency dot release that needs to be deployed to some of our clients. Have we had success with it? Yes or no, and different things that I've seen in their sessions as well. So this is a pretty neat thing that customers have been asking for a long time, and now it's here, and it's, again, just like an open forum, open chat session. The icon over here are just some quick views of dialogue that have occurred in the last, I don't know, 25 or 30 sessions, right? So every interaction I've had, whether it's IM, a phone call, a video call, I can go back to any one of these and say, oh, this was a communication I had with these people, and start up a conversation by a click of the button, right? If I want to get more detailed information, I can always select View More in Outlook, and that's actually going to show me a conversation history of all these different dialogues that I've had really since I deployed my Lync 2010. So I can go back to 2010 and look at every communication I had, and if it's somebody that came from my Outlook, I'll see their name populated like Mike Nelson, If it was somebody that's not in Outlook or a telephone number identified in contact, I still get the caller ID information, and I can click this to call them back. This is one of our engineers, Danny Wynn. We had a phone call that tells me the mode that we are in. So you can kind of get an idea of the power of conversation history. I really love this feature because sometimes I do have meetings and conversations with customers from a couple months ago, and I forgot who was involved with it, so I can just search for it, pull it up, and see that we had an IM session, and we're talking about VMware. So that's conversation history. So a mini version of conversation history is built into the tab, but if you want more detailed information, you can always pull it up into Outlook, and again, go back as far as when you deployed Microsoft Lync. And then the final icon is really the telephone tab, and this gives me a keyboard, a dial pad for my phone, because Microsoft Lync is our telephony system. It's not just used for presence and IM. It's actually how we make calls, how we receive calls, not only internally via Lync, but to our outside world. So it's a PBX type replacement functionality, again, for presence, instant message, voice, video, collaboration, meet me conferencing, and voicemail through Exchange Unified Messaging. So I'm going to do a couple of things on, how we initiate telephone calls. There's a few different ways, and how I communicate typically is I'm going to go ahead and broadcast this on video real quickly. The device I use typically. This is a Jabra disk, a 410, and they have a wireless version. This is how I communicate. This is where I go and use my voice tools to communicate with clients and fellow employees. There's a few different ways that I can communicate with people and make phone calls. There's a dial pad icon that we mentioned a little bit earlier. This is kind of a basic one. You type in a telephone number, and then you can press dial. But, that takes a long time. But the key is that Microsoft actually gives you multiple ways of doing the same thing. You can also simply type in the telephone number here. Right? And then I can click this icon here and I can dial away. But what we like to do is we actually like to emphasize let's dial people or numbers any longer. So dialing people means that if I have an entry in my private or public directory in Outlook or AD, I can simply start typing in a name like my buddy Dave, and you start seeing it starts resolving itself to all the different Davids. Now, if the person is a Lync user, I'm going to see a presence icon color next to their name. But if they're just somebody that's not a Lync user, just a friend, I'll see the information that's pulled from Outlook. I can select what number I want to call them at and select that number and dial away. That's how we communicate to the outside world, just like you do with a phone. But instead of pushing buttons on a $400, $500, $600 phone, we're now just dialing from our client and using the device that we like, whether it's a headset, a wireless Bluetooth headset, or what I have, which is the Jabra 410 speaker set. Other neat things about the enhancements to 2013 is video is now full HD 1080i, so you really get some very, very powerful video communication. And you also have the ability to broadcast up to 5 different people in sort of a video bridge, if you will. And why this is important is because with OCS in 2010, you can initiate a multi-party video conference session. And I can broadcast out to hundreds and hundreds of people. But the video would be displayed based on active speaker technology. So it was only the person who communicated back to me or the loudest person that we would see video. So everybody else could still just video, but it was only going to be one at a time. And so what we did is with 2013, we can now display up to 5 active listeners at the same time. And this is so important because prior to this, we had customers who wanted to have more than one, but 5 was usually sufficient. And they had to purchase some very expensive video infrastructure to support this type of bridging technology, whether it was Tandberg, Polycom, or Lifesize. it was expensive, and we still have needs for those solutions. As an example, if I have a boardroom that has a large HDX high-def video solution from Polycom in Anaheim and another one in Netherlands, but then I may have 2 or 3 people working home via Lync, those bridges are so important to bridge in their technology solution, but also being able to integrate Lync. But if this is just going to be a link-to-link environment, with 2013, I can actually really display 5 different video sessions, 5 different active speakers all at the same time. And it would be displayed right here in these icons. So I could see Cinery, Mike, Don, Gabe. Those are going to be the 5 most active speakers. Somebody else joins in, because right now we have a 21-person conference call. Like here's Cinery right here. Hi, Cinery. If somebody else joins in, and they now become more active than one of the other 5, then one of those 5 will still be part of the video bridge, but I just won't see them. I'm only going to see the 5 most active speakers. So I think this 5-party video bridge is very, very powerful and has really answered a lot of questions and some concerns for customers who loved the video before, but were concerned about one-to-one is really not, or one-to-many is really not going to help us out a lot. So rest assured now, it is. Another really powerful solution, and this is actually one of the things that really have gotten customers to decide, okay, I love persistent chat, I love the ability to do video bridging, but one of the challenges that we had in 2010 is even though webinar is so powerful, and no longer do you need to incur the monthly costs of WebEx or some of the other hosted solutions out there, because Microsoft Lync delivers all this, which I'm going to show in a moment. But it still was a heavy client. So if I invited a customer that did not have Lync, because remember, if they have Lync, or they're federated, or even if they're not federated, but if they have Lync, they can click a single button and join the meeting all via their Lync client. If they didn't have Lync, they often would download a heavy Lync client. It would take some time. We'd have to make sure that Silverlight was deployed as a plugin. And it would work, probably 95% of the time, but there was that 5% of the time that was a bit of a challenge. Well, Microsoft fixed that. And again, probably one of the biggest reasons why people are deciding if they're going to migrate from 10 to 13, let's do it now, is because now the web client, when you invite guests into your Lync Meet Me conferencing, it's a lightweight client. It's a HTML5. It's easy for them to download it. It's very, very lightweight. And the beauty of it is this web client now supports voice and video in your collaboration session. So you don't have to dial in to the conference bridge like some of you may have today. If you are able to download that light client, you're able to hear everything I'm saying over this conference call, as well as seeing all the content that we're delivering. So very, very powerful. When we go into the different meetings, you have some things that I kind of like. When you create a meeting, you can actually select whether it's going to be a desktop that you share, which I typically do by default because it's just easier. But if we want to display just a PowerPoint presentation, I can select PowerPoint and upload the PowerPoint presentation, which really does give a better view of the presentation. But some of the things I like is OneNote. We're big OneNote users at our office. And so now I can open up a OneNote based on a meeting that I may have had today or with a client, because all of my meetings I have here with our customers, and I can do some collaboration with one of our engineers and talk about scoping out a project for the client. So big fan of that OneNote component. Of course, when you're doing presentations, sometimes you want to do a poll, like, am I going too slow? And then people can respond, yes, no, maybe. And we create the poll, and then they can respond, and then I can get an idea if we want to speed up a little bit more or not. So that is some pretty neat things in regarding the enhancements from a meeting perspective. And I'm going to go back out and do a couple of things, and we're going to demo live some interactions that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to Don and do now a live demo. And I'm going to start off with my communication with, let's say, Don Vanderwall in our office. And again, as I mentioned, say, hey, Don, do you have a sec? And Don will say yes or no in a second. Sure. So I'm going to start off, and I'm going to launch a phone call to Don. So some of the stuff I don't want to have too much feedback, you guys, so we'll try to balance this out properly. Hey, Don. How you doing, man? Hey, do you have a second?
I do.
Okay, good. So Don is here, and he and I are just on a single voice call, right? Maybe we started off with an IM, and we're chatting away, and I decide, you know what, it's time to escalate this to voice. So starting with an IM, clicking a single button, I was able to escalate to voice. Now, I can certainly mute this conversation. You can unmute it, but we're talking away. Now, if I want to drag in another person, like Gabe Adler, or John Price, rather, I'm going to go ahead and take his name out of my client list. And again, this is why it's so important to create groups properly in advance based on the people that you most commonly work with. So right here, I work with John a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight his name, drag it over here to Don, and now I'm starting a three-way conference call. In the moment, John's phone right now is ringing. I should have asked him ahead of time if he had a second. I'm going to go ahead and ask Gabe, do you have a second for a call? But as I wait for Gabe, John Price is now. Hey, John. So, hey, John, we're doing a seminar, so if, just hang tight for a little bit. So us three are talking away. I'll wait for Gabe's response. And I can keep adding individuals into this session. I can go ahead and add Mike Nelson as an example by just dragging and dropping. But again, one of the powerful things about the group is if you work commonly with a group, or if there's a group that you commonly work with, you can go ahead and highlight the group, drop them in, and then all of a sudden you've just created a 9-party conference call, right? And I can do this even with people that we federate with. So it doesn't have to be employees. It could be partners. Or maybe I want to do a group, drop in a group from our audio codes team, and I can drop them in that way. It's now, a multi-party conference call. I can do this up to 1,000 users per group. So there's really no limit on how many people that you can just do ad hoc conference calls with. Very, very powerful tool. I'm going to go ahead and now just keep it at the 3. Oh, here's Gabe. He's available. So I'm going to go ahead and add one more person to the session. Again, just dragging and dropping Gabe. And in a moment, right now, Gabe's phone's ringing. And it doesn't matter to me. I just drag the person in. If they're at their Lync client, they're going to answer using one of their speaker devices. They're going to answer the Lync client on their laptop. But if they're doing simultaneous ring, which means that they're making their Lync client ring concurrently with their mobile phone, in case they're on the road and their desktop shut down, it's going to reach out and ring their mobile phone. I don't have to worry any longer. Should I reach this guy on his Lync client or should I reach him on his mobile phone? I just call the Lync client and it figures out all the hard stuff behind the scene. So we're chatting away. I'm going to go ahead and let's see, what can I do? I guess I can do video. Now we're doing video, and pretty soon these guys are going to be asked, hey, David would like to do a video call, and they're going to select whether or not they want to participate in video. If they don't have video, it's fine. They're still part of the conversation via audio. But if they have video, as I had mentioned, we can have 5 different people displayed. So Gabe Adler just came online with video. He's in mute. John Price just came online. And we're now having 3 people participate via video. If John's talking too much, I can mute him. Or I could even remove any one of these people from the video call. And here comes Don. So all 4 of us are now live. Again, I can have up to 1,000 people per call in this video call. And they would all see me broadcast out. But I'm going to see 5 of the most common people that are speaking. So again, if we had 20 people like this seminar today, it's going to only display the 5 people that we speak, that are our most active speakers. Now, usually when we do a video call, sometimes we say, look, you know what, the purpose of this call is, number 1, I want to make sure you're paying attention. That's why I want to do video. But secondly, I also want to show you a document that I've been working on for a client. Now, I can't actually launch a Lync meeting right now because we're currently on a Lync meeting. But all I would do is select one button and then select whether or not I wanted to do desktop share, PowerPoint program. And then all of a sudden, all those guys would get a toaster pop-up saying, David would like to invite you to a meeting, and they can accept or deny. Mike, who's on the road, he's probably not going to accept because he's driving, but he can still participate via voice and or video. But everybody else would be able to see the desktop. Often people ask as well, like, well, can I add additional people who are not even part of Lync into this conversation? And absolutely. I can add people from contact lists, or I can even enter just a telephone number manually to bring people in. Now, because they don't have a Lync client, they'll participate just via video, but everybody else would be either, again, video or collaboration based on this example. So I'm going to go ahead and hang up and do one other thing for the demo. So thanks, you guys, for your help. I'm going to probably reach out to a couple of you guys, so stand by. Another really neat thing that we like in 2013 is what's called tab view. And so what that means is if I launch a conversation with Dawn and I say, hey, Dawn, instead of having some clutter like before with 2010, I'd have a whole bunch of open windows all over my desktop because I may be having 3, 4, 5, 6 different IM sessions with different people. Now it's all grouped nicely into one client. So this is my conversation with Dawn. This is a separate conversation with Gabe. And then this is a separate conversation with the that sales strategy, a collaboration session. So kind of neat that I can do 3 separate sessions at the same time, keeping it tight. You have to be careful, quite honestly, from experience. At one time I had a dialogue going on with one person, but I was actually in the wrong tab. So this could be an issue. So actually what I do is if I start getting more than 3 or 4 people into separate IM windows, I can still go ahead and pop out by selecting this little arrow, and I can go back to having separate tiles of communication. And I kind of like that anyway because it just graphically, it just makes more sense for how I think. But everybody's different, and you can always come back into the tab view by selecting that arrow key again. So that's a new enhancement from 2010 to 2013 as well. Ad hoc conference scheduling, I'm going to show you how we actually created this meeting today. And we'll do a little bit in voicemail, and then we'll do a quick case study, and then we'll open it up for discussions. So one important thing as well about Lync and what I like about 2013 is as I mentioned, I always use this one speaker device by Jabra called the 410. I love it. It's speakerphone. The quality is phenomenal. But there are times when if I am working from home, maybe the kiddies come home, I don't want to interrupt the flow of maybe a conference call that I'm in. So every once in a while I may actually have 2 devices plugged in. So right now I have a Plantronics headset device plugged in as well as my speaker device. It's very easy for me to toggle between a speaker device. I can very easily select between a speakerphone and the headset on this particular call. So if I'm speaking on a speakerphone because I like that freedom and I like to walk around a little bit, I have it on a speakerphone, but again, just by a single click of the button, I hit headset, and now I'm in a little bit more of a private mode where it's easier for me to listen to and people don't hear my conversation going on. So that's a pretty neat feature that's new on 2013 as well. Simultaneous ring is it's been around for quite some time, but it's still a neat thing to point out. In our office, pretty much everybody in the company has simultaneous ring set up. It's on 24/7. It's a neat little feature that just says anybody who calls my direct line, my private line going into my office, or anybody internally in the office who wants to call me. If I have simultaneous ring turned on, which I have it linked to my mobile device, then both my Microsoft Lync client and my mobile phone ring concurrently at the same time. And it allows me to pick and choose which device I want to answer. So if I'm on the road, my laptop's probably shut down and in the back of my car. So my mobile phone rings and I answer it. But if I'm in the office, I will answer my client. If I'm in the office and roaming around, well, my mobile phone's always in my pocket, so I may answer it on my mobile phone. So it gives you flexibility on what device that you want to answer. And it's also a neat thing, what we call the spouse saver, is if I'm in a conference call, and this conference call is going a lot longer than I anticipated, and I started off with my Microsoft Lync client, I can actually select a button that says transfer to, and then I can select from a drop-down list different telephone devices that I have, and I'd select my mobile device, and without interrupting the flow of that call at all, it'll transfer to my mobile device, and then I can carry on conversation. Again, no disruption to the call. Nobody knows any difference. The only difference is I've moved myself. I'm no longer captive to the desktop. I'm now on my mobile device. Simultaneous ring, very powerful. That also gives people peace of mind, because sometimes when you're going from a traditional telephony system and your phone's on your desk and it always rings no matter what, and when we're moving people into, really you're now reliant on your laptop for most cases, sometimes it's like, hey, sometimes like I'm running into the office, I got to fire up my laptop, log in. Rest assured, Lync Client is the first thing that pops up and it's live. But during that launching of the laptop and pacing around the office, again, if you have simultaneous ring on, you're never going to miss a call anyway because your mobile phone will ring. So again, simultaneous ring, a great feature. Voicemail is a big question. It's important to talk about voicemail. I'm only going to spend a couple minutes on it. But why voicemail is so important as a discussion is because a lot of people think that Lync also is the voicemail system. It's not. It's actually Exchange Unified Messaging. Started with 2007. 2010 added some really nice functionality. So Exchange is the voicemail system with certain roles turned on called UM. And the reason I point out that it's separate is because we actually have several clients, traditional via PBXs and Cisco, who are still kept their PBX in place and don't even have an instance of Lync running. But they did not want to deal with that proprietary voicemail system any longer. So they already have Exchange deployed. We activate a UM role. Now they have full-blown unified messaging. So you could use Exchange UM as a voicemail system even when Lync's not involved. And we have clients who have just Lync deployed, no Exchange UM yet. But the optimal experience is when you do have Microsoft Lync from a telephony perspective, and then you have Exchange UM as the voicemail system. So I'm going to show you a couple real neat things on voicemail real quick, and then we'll get close to wrapping this up. Emails come into your Outlook just like a regular email. Voicemails still come to email, but I also created a folder because it's easier for me to keep my voicemails stored in a certain area. And so I keep it down here in a voicemail folder under, which is a subfolder. But what's neat about the voicemail is, again, it works just like any voicemail that you may have experienced in the past with lots of enhancements. So in a typical environment, somebody calls my direct line or somebody internally dials my extension. If I don't answer my phone, again, I'm in simultaneous ring, so if I don't answer my mobile device nor my client, it rings for about 4 or 5 times, it's always going to drop it into my Exchange mailbox. And it's just a voicemail. It says, hi, this is David. I'm currently out of the office. Please leave your name and number, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Beep. Now, with that voicemail, I can certainly call in from the road in a backdoor number, like we used to call it, and punch in my mailbox and a security code and hit 1 to listen to messages and all that other stuff. But now that it's truly unified messaging, having it come into my inbox in Outlook, not only on my mobile device do I see that as an email and an attachment, and I can click on it and listen to the voicemail via my iPhone, but when I'm in the office, I'm inside Outlook, and I can get a lot of pretty neat stuff. Number one, because it's a voicemail, I can just hit the player button.
Hello, David. My name is Wolfgang. I'm calling on behalf.
And listen to that message. I can forward this message to somebody else. I can speed up the message. I can increase the volume. I can skip ahead. But what's really powerful is that it also has speech-to-text technology. And as I tell people, don't expect it to be 100%. It never is, especially when you have some accents in there. But it's pretty darn close, and it's enough where you can decipher what the message is, and it also gives you the ability to pretty much figure out how important it is. So as an example, when I'm in a meeting, which I'm in meetings a lot, and I get voicemail, I could glance down and read the text of that voicemail. And if it's a client, and this looks like an urgent item that I need to take care of, I can excuse myself from that meeting and call that customer back. Already have read pretty much what the context is. Or conversely, if I look down and maybe it's just a friend or my wife and it's not that important, well, at least I could look down and read that it's not that important, it's not an emergency, and carry on with the meeting. So it really allows you to prioritize and give you a little bit of peace of mind of whether you need to excuse yourself or not from meetings, which I really like a lot. What's also neat is that I can go to anywhere in this message, because again, it's speech to text, and right here he starts talking about getting Mexican marketing. Well, obviously that's not real, so let's see what he said.
Mexican marketing.
getting access to marketing. So again, it's kind of fun to try to decipher this stuff anyway, but I can go to anywhere in the message by selecting any piece, and it'll actually forward to that point, or I can even go back and listen to that message. So with Exchange as your voicemail, it's also your auto attendant and a very powerful IVR with database integration. So it's the greeting for our company. Thank you for calling Integrated Access Solutions. If you know your party's extension, please enter now. So that Exchange takes care of all the audio attendant, true IVR with data dip, and your voicemail functionality. Now the final thing I'm going to do is real quickly how to create a meeting. Creating a meeting is pretty easy. You know, earlier it was pretty neat because I was able to start off with an IM session, escalate to voice, add 3 or 4 people, click one button, and we created an ad hoc webinar desktop share solution. But there's obviously times when we need to create meetings for clients that are scheduled, or maybe seminars like this. So within Outlook, we have our icons up here, right? Creating new meeting. Over here is new Lync meeting. I simply click one button. I type in who I want it to go to. Maybe it's the sales department. Maybe it's Don. Maybe it's Mike. Type in subject matter, date and time, and send. When people receive that message in their inbox, they're going to open it up, and they're going to click Join Lync Meeting. And if they're a Lync user already, they're brought right into the Lync meeting automatically. If they're maybe on the road or they don't have access to their Lync client, they can still call in to the telephone number and enter the conference ID and join that way. So when you send out a Lync meeting, again, this can go out to 1,000 people. And whether people click Join Lync Meeting and they have an existing client that automatically launches into the meeting, or it's going to prompt them now to download a thin client, HTML-based, or they can dial in manually via telephone number and entering a conference key. However they do it, once they get in, they're part of this Meet Me conference bridge. Every single user within Microsoft Lync has access to all these tools. Everybody will now have their own private with their own conference ID code to create Meet Me conferencing. And how you take it from a simple inbound Meet Me audio bridge to full-blown webinar with polling and whiteboarding and desktop share is clicking one button, which is this icon here. And that's all you do. So it's not a separate service for webinar. It's not a separate service for Meet Me conferencing. It's the same service, and you decide whether it's going to stay as audio only, or you're going to click this one button and then all of a sudden select desktop or PowerPoint or a program that you're going to upload, and it now becomes a full-blown desktop collaboration. So as I wrap this up, we're going to do a quick case study. This is a live customer of IAS's. It's a pretty neat case study. I'm going to build out a PowerPoint, so stand by for one moment. So this is a customer here in Southern California. They have about 16 locations. It's actually grown since I put this slide together a few months ago. Domestic and international, they had a big PBX, right, big Avaya system sitting at their corporate office. And off that Avaya system, they had many remote locations domestically and internationally that hung off of that core PBX in a local survivable fashion. So it's a very powerful solution. We're a big Avaya partner. It's a great solution, you know, for voice-centric folks. But then they also had some disparate small key systems, little IP offices, some Nortel systems, and so forth. So it was really a mixed PBX environment with huge Meet Me conferencing bills, huge WebEx bills, a lot of expenses that they were paying for, and they actually had an okay Polycom infrastructure in place. So it was kind of a hodgepodge of different technologies, kind of like that siloed slide that I talked about earlier. When we came to meet with the client, this is what their environment looked like. And they had this core PBX here, big Avaya 8700, 12 PRI circuits coming into their office, and then different survivable gateways off of this PBX, and then some standalone key systems off of it. And our job really was, hey, we want to deploy Microsoft Lync 2010, really to leverage some presence and instant message. And we kind of want to see what voice looks like from an enterprise perspective. But we need to make this highly available. The High availability architecture for 2013, by the way, is very elegant and much cleaner than 2010. It's another compelling reason for people to migrate. But for 2010, it was basically standing up duplicated front-end mediation servers, duplicated edge servers, and a duplicated Exchange And we had some F5 load balancers, I believe, for full-blown load balancing. You can also do DNS load balancing as well. So we stood up this environment, and then we did some pilots of some users within IT and HR. In order to do a full audio pilot, and also which ties into a nice roadmap migration rollout, is they're via PBX, even though they could have purchased some SIP components, the session manager and system manager, to make it SIP enabled. That's a pretty big expense, and they also weren't sure what Avaya's future was for them. So instead, they invested in an audio code gateway, which is one of our strong partners. And the audio code gateway for this purpose was tied to the Avaya via PRI circuits that they had available. So it speaks TDM here, but then it speaks SIP over to Lync, because Microsoft Lync and Exchange is a SIP environment. So this allows for that translation between PSTN and SIP. And then what we did with our expertise in Avaya and our expertise in Lync is we built dial plans so that as users came, as they rolled out users into Lync, we needed to make sure that the Lync users were still able to talk to the Avaya users by just simple 6-digit dialing. So any Avaya user that was extension 21556 could speak to any Lync user. And also, during this pilot, they were still using all the PRI circuits from their carrier for DID numbers and toll-free numbers. So if it was a DID number coming in for a Avaya user, it would come into the PRI to the Avaya phone. If it was for a Lync user, it would come in via the PRI through the Avaya audio codes out to Lync. So this is a great way to test, based on your terms, whether you believe Lync is a viable PBX replacement for you. Once more and more users got rolled out and they realized that this is going to be our moving forward platform for all of unified communication roles, instant message, voice, video, meet me conferencing, and webinar solutions, we brought in a SIP trunk. And at first that SIP trunk was a trial SIP trunk. There's some carriers, one of our favorites are IntelliPure and Level 3, and they'll bring in 5 channels, no cost, no obligation, and you can test it out. But then this 5-channel SIP trunk went to 200. So then they have 200 concurrent channels coming into this office. And the beauty of SIP is just in its inherent nature for resiliency and high availability. So a second SIP trunk that they didn't pay a penny for on a per-month basis came in, but on a separate internet access point. So they have a big pipe coming in from one carrier and then another big pipe as a redundant solution from another carrier. So that other SIP trunk was hanging off of that second carrier. And with SIP, it's simply a matter of all of the DIDs and toll-free numbers and dialing parameters that are associated to this SIP trunk and this IP address. If it were to fail, within about a half a second, it rolls to the secondary SIP trunk without well, there's going to be disruption of service for about a half a second or so, but everything transfers over. So it's really beautiful in its ability to do this. And you can even have tertiary SIP trunks hanging in data centers across the country or even internationally. So the SIP trunk gets deployed. More and more users start moving over to Lync off of Avaya. Then the next step was, okay, we have some Polycom endpoints in our office. We want to bridge this to Lync users. How do we do this elegantly? Well, we start off with some very powerful Polycom infrastructure and bridging solutions and management solutions and deploy Polycom HDX series all around the globe. And so what this bridging technology does with its inherent support for Lync is that, just like I mentioned before, I can have a 20-party video solution in their case, and you may have HDXs all around the globe participating in this boardroom discussion, and you can have 4 or 5 different people maybe working from home that dial into the bridge via Lync, and they're part of the video bridging solution. So it's a really nice way to very tightly and seamlessly integrate Polycom infrastructure to your Lync infrastructure. The next phase was, we love Lync. This is now our product moving forward for PBX. We want to start deploying this out to our remote sites. We have new facilities coming online. How do we do this? Well, we selected their closest location to their corporate facility in Orange County and rolled out an audio code gateway with local survivability. So there's an instance of Lync running so that if the WAN were to fail, these people would still be able to make and receive phone calls, no problem. They had local SIP trunk coming in that was part of their primary carrier here, but it was coming in for a distributed load as well as survivability. Again, if our WAN is gone, we want to make sure that they can still get their inbound SIP calls and make outbound calls on their instance of Lync running. So that was the first deployment. Huge success. People love it. They're now collaborating. They're part of the enterprise. The next deployment was in Beijing, where they were moving offices. Instead of bringing their old technology with them, deployed another gateway, local survivability, no MPLS. This is over the public internet with their IPsec VPN, which was a real surprise to us, but they did it. And then just slowly but surely, sites come offline and the new audio code gateways go in. And what's interesting is that this big of VIA PBX is still there. And the reason it was there primarily is to support their call center, which has about 200 users in it. And so that needed to stay in place because Lync has some workgroup functionality and some basic call center functionality, but it's not an enterprise class call center, and they do depend on third-party solutions. We are an interactive intelligence partner. It's one of our expertise, and it has been for the last 12 years in business. We love contact center solutions, multi-channel, single-channel, workforce management, recording, optimization, analyzer, all those great technologies that really help companies thrive. And the next step for this customer is Avaya goes away and then interactive comes into play, and this becomes their contact center solution for their whole corporate environment. And that was decision was just made recently, and in about 2 or 3 months, that will be a reality for them. So this is a really neat case study, I think, because it helps a lot of customers. A lot of customers believe, hey, you know, we want Lync, we want it to be our telephony solution. Are we doing a hot cut? I mean, we have, whether you have 100 users or 1,000 or 2,000 users, you got to decide, do I really want to do a hot cut, or I want to do a phased approach? And so this shows that you can do a phased approach, that these two solutions can operate in parallel with each other, independent solutions, but operate in parallel. And by the way, their environment, which was kind of neat, is that every user had Lync, even if they had not rolled out Lync for PBX yet, or Lync for voice. But every user was first rolled out for the client so that they can do presence IM, peer-to-peer voice, which was client-to-client voice, and meet-me conferencing collaboration. But it wasn't until the individual sites moved from their old Avaya PBX to the audio code gateway supporting Lync that they then activated the voice roles. And that's a nice way of doing it too, because everybody becomes familiar with the client and enjoys the client. The next step is really just, I don't need this big phone on my desk. I just need a wireless wired headset or maybe one of the speaker devices like I use.
This concludes today's webcast. For more information about Microsoft Lync 2013 or to schedule an assessment, you may give us a call at 866-624-1225 or visit our website at integratedaccess.net.